What's good, fam? We are back at it with another Extreme Stories of Revenge. This is part three. The last one was crazy. The first one was crazy. So we about to see this part three. If it gets any crazier. All I know is Reddit is full of diabolical people. So yeah, man, let's jump straight into this one, man. I had to get some snacks for this. Understand me? Let's get it.
Nothing feels as good as getting even. Wait, no, scratch that. What I meant to say was, nothing feels as good as getting revenge. No, hang on, I screwed up again. What I really meant was, nothing feels as good as getting revenge that totally ruins the person that wronged you. But as satisfying as tales of one-upmanship can be, there are some stories out there that, I'd argue, go too far. From a plan that took 20 years to play out, to a bully who got a literal buttload of karma, it's time for even more extreme stories of revenge that took it way too far.
I ain't gonna hold you. The worst kind of karma is when they fuck with your stomach. God.
Food for thwart. There is nothing more annoying than going to get that food you were saving, only to find someone else has eaten it. This is an occupational hazard of being a student in shared accommodation.
I already know where it's going.
As Reddit user, the man with two poo brains, discovered. Nice name there. A first-year university microbiology student in England, he was living with several other students, all boys, who shared one kitchen. Inevitably, Pooh Brain's food would often go missing, but no one admitted to stealing it. Well, one day, his entire class were in the labs experimenting with a low-risk orthopox virus. Not exactly harmless, but harmless enough that they let first-year students handle it. It was then that he noticed that one of his lab partners had fumbled their sample, and they soon developed a pretty painful blister on their lip. A light bulb went off in Pooh Brain's head, and he hastily snuck a sample of the virus away. Later that evening, he smeared the sample over a block of cheese he had bought, wrapped it up tight to prevent any cross-contamination with other food, and left it in the refrigerator.
Oh my God.
Sure enough, the next day, someone had snacked on his cheese. The day after that, two of Pooh Brain's housemates were sporting nasty-looking blisters all over their mouths. They were so bad they wouldn't go outside until the lesions eventually went away a few weeks later.
Damn.
After that, Pooh Brain's food never went missing again. Gee, and all it took was some light biological warfare. Bully backfire. Were you ever bullied at school? Yeah, I got shoved into a locker and had my lunch stolen once or twice. Or 50 times. Okay, that might sound bad, but it's nothing compared to what Reddit user SCP-682's friend Marco went through. Marco was a small, skinny kid. He was a little geeky, but was generally pretty happy. Until a much bigger kid we'll call Polo started to pick on him. And I'm not talking about harmless pranks. Marco started turning up to class with black eyes. His backpack was ripped, his food had been stolen, and his stuff was all but destroyed.
God damn. See, man? Everything is all fun and games till he bring that pistol up to school.
Polo's parents were well connected to the school, so when Marco reported it, he was accused of lying and suspended.
What?
His suspension was only lifted when a video taken on a smartphone emerged, showing Polo ripping apart Marco's bag and throwing it in the trash. But despite...
You think I killed Gary?
Did you? I choose violence every day.
The investigation begins.
this, Polo faced no consequences whatsoever. So, when Marco eventually returned to school, he decided he wasn't going to take this anymore. He turned up one day with a huge bag of gummy bears, hoping to share them with his friends. As expected, Polo ripped the bag away from Marco, stealing the sweets and demolishing them, one fistful after another. Marco began to cry, which only fueled Polo to eat more of them, which is exactly what Marco wanted. He wasn't actually crying. He was faking it. Why? Well, during his suspension, Marco had learned that a certain someone had a bowel condition that made him intolerant to sugar substitutes.
So it was his punk ass. You know what? Fuck your stomach. How about that?
And those weren't normal gummy bears. They were sugar-free gummy bears. Marco had set a trap. Throughout the day, Polo continued to gorge himself on the stolen sweets until, all of a sudden, he bolted out of class and made a mad dash for the bathroom with a suspicious brown stain trailing down his pants. No one saw Polo for a few days after that, with rumors flying around that after Polo's visit, the bathroom looked like someone had exploded in it.
Oh, so he shot it on himself. That's what happened. Just a brown, and then it came out. That's what his punk ass get.
When he did return, he looked awful.
Damn.
His face was bruised, he was wearing an eye patch, the other eye was bloodshot. Apparently, he'd strained so hard while battling against the explosive effects of the sugar-free bears, he left himself partially blind in one eye. After that, he left Marco well alone.
I bet goddamn well. You almost shit yourself to death. Man, boy, you better leave them nerds alone, man. Leave them alone. I'm telling you. They turned into Michael B. Jordan. Or some of them turned into John Bones. John Bones Jones, man. Y'all better leave them motherfucking people alone, man.
Those gummy bears may have been sugar-free, but that story was sweet as hell.
Absolutely.
Teaching a lesson. A kid being bullied by another kid is one thing, but a kid being bullied by a teacher is a whole other level of wrong. Sadly, though, that's what happened to Reddit user SafeAd5951 back when he was barely 6 years old.
Oh, wow.
Safe had just started first grade, but his teacher, Mrs. Hagner, took an instant disliking to him. Despite being a child, she doled out incredibly harsh punishments to Safe and a friend of his. She called them derogatory names, forbade the other kids from playing with them, and even
So that bitch was racist. Fuck her.
even forced Safe to stand in a garbage while all the other kids poured their leftover lunches on him.
Oh, hell no.
When he came home that day with his ruined shoes soaked
no.
in garbage juice, his mom asked what had happened, and he told her about Mrs. Hagner's punishments. Shocked, she rang up his friend's parents, who'd been told the same thing. It was a pattern of behavior, with Miss Hagner apparently targeting kids that weren't rich or white.
And I'd have beat her Caucasian pasty white ass. So,
Disgustingly, the school was unwilling to take any action,
Okay.
so without wasting a moment, Safe's mom enrolled him in another school, where he suddenly began thriving. And while Safe was living up to his potential, so was his mom. Over the next 3 years, she got a degree in education. Then she got a job as a teacher, all while raising Safe and his siblings. Then she got a master's degree and became a leading educator in the district. She was beloved by the community and very well respected. About 30 years later, Safe realized the awful old school had shut down a few years after he'd left. Dredging up memories, he offhandedly asked his mom if she remembered Mrs. Hagner, and that's when his mom dropped a bombshell. She calmly said that, yes, she did remember. She'd also spent the last 25 years informing every single school administration in the state what a vile human being Mrs. Hagner was. She'd given them detailed accounts of her behavior, and so every time she'd applied for a job in any school in his mom's district, they'd turned her down flat. His mom had risen up the ranks of education purely to ruin this one woman's career in revenge for what she'd done to Safe.
Oh, you talk about cold, diabolical, and I like every part of it. You bitch. I'm pointing at her, right? You bitch. Stay homeless. Fuck wrong.
As far as she knew, Mrs. Hagner never saw the inside of a classroom ever again.
What the fuck she did.
Moral of the story? Do not mess with moms. RuneScape
No,
Revenge.
the moral of the story is don't mess with a mother's child. That's it right there. She'll skin your ass alive. Then you gotta mess with the pops. Man,
Stories of other people getting revenge on their cheating partners is a real tonic for heartbreak. Like this next story from Reddit user OrsB19, who, so YouTube doesn't strike this video down for profanity, we'll be calling Laura. Laura was an avid player of the online game RuneScape, and through playing the game, she met her long-distance boyfriend, who we'll call Douche. As they began to get older, Laura got a job, moved out, became independent, and, in short, grew up. Douche, on the other hand, didn't. He relied on Laura to send him money to pay his rent, throwing tantrums when Laura couldn't afford to support him. He refused to even look for a job, despite Laura offering to help. And then, Douche had the audacity to claim Laura just wasn't working hard enough and should get a second job so that he could just keep playing RuneScape.
Laura, you better not have did that shit.
If I was Laura, I'd have dumped this loser on the spot, but Laura loved him and wanted to help him. She lent Douche money to fly him out to see her. But while he was visiting, she saw a message pop up on his phone. It said, "When are you gonna leave her?" Thinking she might be missing some precious context, she waited until he was asleep and went through his phone. Sure enough, Douche had been cheating on her, messaging and flirting with another girl, promising to leave Laura, making fun of Laura behind her back, and even sending her Laura's spicy pics so they could...
Yo, you ain't Douche. He is a dick. That's what he is.
Could pick apart and laugh at her.
You's a
She had
petty
never
motherfucker.
felt so used or vengeful.
Oh,
For the
woman
rest of the
scorn.
trip, she-
Woman scorn is different. Y'all better stop playing.
She pretended like she'd seen nothing and continued being as lovely and affectionate as ever. After she'd dropped him off at the airport, though, she went back home, sat at her computer, and immediately logged into RuneScape. But not into her account, into his. He'd left himself logged in, allowing her unprecedented access to his precious 14-year-old account. Within the hour, she destroyed and sold everything he'd earned, using all of his in-game currency to buy useless items that could be bought but not used or sold. Within minutes, his virtual legacy...
When you go rogue, you don't just settle for a little flavor. You want flavors that pack a punch.
consisting of more than 8 billion in-game coins, was now worthless. But she wasn't done there. She then contacted all of his in-game friends and told them of his cheating antics, then changed his username to something incredibly embarrassing and logged off. A few hours later, her phone was blowing up. Douche was hysterical, calling her every name under the sun and sending photos of himself crying. Laura calmly explained that he would never contact her again, or she'd be pressing criminal charges for sharing her spicy pictures without her consent. Apparently, he shut up quickly after that. Well, looks like digital cheating deserves digital consequences. You rang. Phone bills are the worst. I'm always surprised with how many minutes I've used and how much they cost. But back in the 80s, they were much worse. The cost of processing a call was much higher, which one savvy lady used to her advantage around 1987. According to a report from Hollywood at the time, a man living in the area with his live-in girlfriend was about to jet off on a business trip for a few weeks. He plans to break up with her, but instead of letting her down gently and acting like an adult, he cruelly told her that by the time he came back, he expected her to be packed up and gone. She was understandably upset. So upset that she decided to get her own back, not by breaking his heart, but by breaking his wallet. Well, fast forward a few weeks, and our man returns from his trip. His place is spotlessly clean, and there's no sign of his ex. His mean little plan had worked. The only thing out of place was the phone, which had been left off the hook. He heard a strange babbling noise and assumed there was a connection issue, so he hung it back on the receiver and thought nothing of it. That was until his phone bill arrived. He usually paid around $20 a month, about $50 in today's money, but the numbers on his bill stated he owed an astronomical $8,000 at a little over $21,000 today. It turned out that just before his ex had left for good, she made a long-distance call to Japan's Speaking Clock, an automated service that provided the time over the phone. Being a long-distance call, it cost extra. And being automated, the caller on the other end didn't hang up. Costing 50 cents a minute, this guy's phone had been calling Japan non-stop for about 266 hours for 11 days.
Damn!
Wow. That's definitely one way to make your ex pay. Ain't no grass.
Alright.
Back in the 1980s, the complete book of outrageous and atrocious practical jokes came up with a wonderfully harmless prank. Lay down a plastic sheet in a room, add an inch of topsoil, cover in grass seeds, turn up the heat, and voila! In a few days, the prankee will be faced with an indoor lawn. The plastic sheet would make it easy to remove, and there'd be no real harm done. However, one woman in the UK, who we'll call Jenny, decided to put a malicious spin on this petty prank. Back in the 1980s, Jenny had a boyfriend called Carl. Carl was an airline pilot who would sometimes spend several weeks away from his home on long-haul flights. Or at least, that's what he told Jenny. Because one day, Jenny dropped by Carl's house when he was supposedly on one of these flights and saw Carl through the window making out with a stewardess.
He was diddling
Distraught
somebody.
and humiliated, Jenny silently went home.
I take that back. I will never say that again when it talks about sex. He was smashing.
But as she did, she began to think of ways to get back at him. For the next few weeks, she pretended like nothing was wrong, meeting up with Carl, being affectionate, and acting like a loving girlfriend. However, when he next told her he'd be away for a few weeks on business, she began her revenge plan. She told him she'd need to drop by his apartment a few times to collect some stuff, though she wasn't sure when. Unable to pin her movements down, if Carl wanted to meet up with his mistress, he wouldn't be able to use his apartment in case Jenny walked in on them. So the place would be fully vacated. Exactly what Jenny needed. And when he left that evening, Jenny got to work. Using a watering can, she soaked all of the soft furnishings in his apartment. His couch, his bed, his carpet, even his toilet paper. She then turned his heating on so it was nice and warm, opened all the curtains so there was plenty of sunlight, and spread packet after packet of cress seeds all over the place. She dropped by a few days later, and to her delight, most of the seeds were germinating.
Damn.
By the time Carl got back from wherever he'd really been, he was confronted by thousands of cress plants that had their roots woven into his furnishings.
It was Jumanji in that bitch.
Ruining everything they touched. After that, Jenny never saw him again. Talk about leaving someone crestfallen. Karma generates interest. Were you an awkward kid growing up? I mean, who wasn't? Well, Reddit user Seneca13 was a little more awkward than most. He didn't have any friends and was bullied by a classmate called Derek. One day, Derek started acting nice to him. Coincidentally, it was the same day Seneca had brought his brand new action figure to school. Derek spent the whole day buttering Seneca up, being nice to him, and making poor, naive Seneca believe that he was his friend. Then he asked Seneca if he could borrow the new toy, and Seneca happily agreed. The next day, though, Derek ignored him, and when he asked for his toy back, Derek said, "You never gave it to me, loser. You must have imagined it." Then he started spreading vicious lies about Seneca to get him to buzz off, ostracizing him from the rest of the school. What a jerk. The event stuck with Seneca as he grew up, but eventually he found his feet, gained some good friends, and became a successful plumber and electrician. Some 20 years after the incident, one morning at 2 a.m., he received an emergency call out to a flooded house. Lo and behold, it was Derek's house. Seneca kept calm, said hello, and introduced himself. He acted as if the stuff in school had never happened, reassured Derek that he was in good hands, and gave him an idea of what this would cost to fix. A few $100s tops. Derek seemed happy, but it was...
One of the things students love about culinary school online with Escoffier is the toolkit.
Seneca, who was delighted, because as he was assessing the damage, he
was looking for his damn Batman toy.
noticed a lot of work on the property that didn't comply with city regulations. It had clearly led to the leak, which must have been going on for weeks, and would ring up a huge water bill if a registered plumber didn't sign off as an accident. He began photographing and documenting everything before calling a friend of his at city council to get down there ASAP and look at the mess this bozo had built.
He had connections.
His friend arrived, and after looking around, Derek was slapped with an order to tear down the majority of his house, as it contained unsanctioned additions, extensions, and plumbing. Derek was furious, but there was nothing he could do. Seneca and his friend left, but not before Seneca also left Derek an invoice for the call-out, just to rub salt in the wound. A few weeks later, Derek calls Seneca to ask to talk face-to-face. They meet up, and Derek suspiciously puts his phone face down on the table. Seneca realized Derek might be trying to record their conversation, so he kept his calm. That's when Derek showed him the water bill. It was close to $80,000.
God damn!
On top of all the rebuilding he needed to do, this would bankrupt him. He begged Seneca to sign the certificate confirming it was an accident, but Seneca declined. Angry, he began to berate Seneca, admitting that he knew how he treated him when they were kids was wrong and that he was sorry. But Seneca only quoted him a few $100 for the repairs. Why would he lie about that? Seneca replied, "I said no such thing, loser. You must have imagined that." And then he left. Wow. For a revenge that iconic, they should make a Seneca action figure.
Man, you talking about what James Brown said, revenge! Sold me out the chicken chain!
Daddy's issues. There are a lot of bad dads out there. They don't care, they don't make effort, or worse, they're cruel. But few compared to the cockroach that Reddit user Lila Annis had to call Dad. When Lila was born, her father abandoned her and her mother. He drained her mother's bank accounts, but despite this, her mom never said a bad word against him. He never paid child support, barely sent birthday cards, and only visited her once or twice a year.
Damn!
When her mom remarried, though, he straight up claimed Lila was no longer his responsibility. She was her new stepdad's problem now, and cut off all communication with her. He didn't attend her graduation, her wedding, or even respond to invitations to meet her son.
Damn!
In all that time, Lila had received just one email from him, where all he did was lambaste her mother for her looks, criticizing everything about her. When Lila defended her mother, he called Lila a waste and stopped responding. That was the moment Lila truly realized what a scumbag he was. She went on with her life when one day, out of the blue, she got an email from him. Was it to reconnect? To apologize? To meet her new family?
He needed some money.
No. He needed something. A kidney. It turned out he was diabetic, and his kidneys were failing. He was on the donor list, but finding a match could take years, time he didn't have. So he figured a blood relative of his might be a match and give him one, which was the only reason he contacted Lila. Enraged at his audacity, Lila read and reread the email and then began plotting. She wrote back agreeing to meet up and do the test to see if she was a match for him. They went to the hospital together and confirmed that she was indeed a match. Her birth father was overjoyed.
What the fuck you shouting and laughing and giggling, man? Flavor, I can't do nothing for you, man.
Over several weeks, Lila then began all the intensive therapy and prep work needed for a donation, taking every step very seriously. Then, on the day of the surgery, she turned up to the hospital to meet her father. But just before they went in, She told him she wasn't going through with it.
Oh, shit.
Confused, her birth father began breaking down, begging to know why. What was wrong? Why couldn't he have her kidney? With a grin a mile wide, she told him he was not her father, and using his own words, that he was a waste.
Damn.
With that, she walked off and never saw him again. Damn, Lila literally wasted that cockroach. Well, that's all the revenge I...
Man. Be careful how you treat people, bruh. Because this the thing, right? They can either go somewhere to the point where they just want to erase you from Earth, period, or they can do diabolical stuff like this, but it's just to treat people the way you want to be treated, man. Some people don't forget that shit. You just seen it in the video. Some people get traumatized. Some people even off they self over stuff like that. Y'all be careful how you treat people, bro. That's all I'm gonna say after that. But that was crazy. It wasn't as bad as the third one. As the part 1 or 2. This one was diabolical, but it wasn't that bad. But yeah, that $80,000 water bill. Good God, I'm gonna get bankrupt. Oh. Damn, I feel for you, man. Fuck you, man. Go ahead. Where my Batman toy at? I'd have gave him the invoice. I want my damn Batman toy. Where it's at? If you can't find it, pay that $80,000 damn dollars, man. And man, give me my commission for bringing my ass here in this shithole, man. You know what I'm saying? I want my money. And my Batman toy. Fuck. Man, I'd have been Patty King. You understand me? Man, but yeah, this one was good though, man. Yeah, man, I had a good time with this one, man. Yo, if y'all liked it, smash the like button for your boy. Comment down below what y'all thought about the video. Share the video and subscribe to the channel for your boy. And also let me know down in the comment sections what else y'all want me to react to. We out this piece. Peace, love, blessings. See you on the next one.